Just coming out on my
All good? Good evening,
Yeah.
everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you to everyone who's joining us in person, as well as everyone who's joining us via Zoom tonight. So the county executive is going to join us in a few minutes. She's hit some traffic on the way down here to Somerset County. But while we wait, we have a couple updates to go through here at the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Jared Shavline. I am the chair and one of the original founders of the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. Joining me on my left is the wonderful community outreach chair, Dr. Sharon Washington, who you'll hear from in just a little bit. So kind of a little bit about the LSPC is we're a nonpartisan progressive organization that covers Dorchester, Wacomico, Somerset, and Worcester County. Our goal is to pass progressive legislation. We worked on things like raising the minimum wage, fighting for universal health care, making sure that we have green energy coming to our communities, making sure that people have, strong unions, paid sick leave, and making sure that we're advocating for our communities. So one of the big reasons we do these town halls is for two reasons. Number one, to bring the candidates to the Eastern Shore and let them know, hey, we're important, our voices matter. Here's what we want to see out of our elected officials. And also give you the opportunity to ask them the questions that you care about. The other thing is our organization endorses and actively gets involved in elections. We are a political action committee, which means we're allowed to endorse and we'll actually work to get elected the candidates that we support. So our town hall is an opportunity to inform you on who we as an organization should support and make sure that you are the most informed when you go into vote in the primary on May 15th. Is that what it says though? May 14th. Primary day is May 14th. So our actual endorsement vote as an organization will occur next Thursday at 6:30, both virtually and in person, at our monthly LSPC meeting. So as of next week, we'll know who we support the Senate, school board, potentially president if we do decide to endorse in that race, and all the other races going on in 2024. For those of you who are looking for more information on what it means to be a elected official, you can find more, not elected official, I'm sorry, a voting member of the LSPC. You can learn more on our website. But I'll just go over it very quickly. You either have to be involved in a committee, you either be involved in a committee, attend an event just like tonight, or attend 3 of the last 8 monthly meetings. The reason we do this, we want to make sure that folks who decide who we endorse are active and engaged in our organization. So we don't have situations where folks just show up on endorsement night, vote, and then never come out to an event ever again. If you have any questions about that process or want to know if you are eligible, feel free to reach out to me at the end of the meeting or shoot us an email at admin@lowershoreprogressive.com. If you are a voting member, your ballot will be sent to you at the start of on Tuesday of this week, and you will have up until the monthly meeting to vote. You can either vote via the ballot that gets sent to you in your email, or you can show up to a monthly meeting and vote in person. If you do plan on voting via the link that gets sent to you, please show up to a monthly meeting anyway. We have a great guest speaker coming out this month. We're still going to be doing other things other than the endorsement vote. So either way, we hope to see you there, whether you voted in your email or not. With that, as always, this is a very important election year. If you want to continue to see good events like this in the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus, you want to make sure that we have the resources that we need to elect great candidates up and down the ballot, not only in 2024, but in 2026, and from school board all the way up to Congress and everything in between. Please consider making a donation to the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. Every single cent that we raise stays right here on the Lower Shore. It helps build our movement in Somerset, Wacomico, in Worcester, and Dorchester County. Running these events are really important, but they do take financial resources. So if anyone would like to donate, you can find the donation link at our website, lowershoreprogressives.com. For those who are interested in still getting involved, more with the organization. We do have 4 great committees. Our electoral committee that actually overviews the questionnaires and vets candidates. We have our community outreach committee, which Dr. Washington runs, which focuses on planning community events like this, being out in the community and just letting the community know, who are the progressives, what do we do? And then finally, the legislative committee that actually works on passing progressive legislation, both locally and up in Annapolis. Dr. Washington, did I forget anything? So I kind of throw you under the bus.
No, I think you covered everything, Jared. I'm just excited to be here and meet with Angela Alsobrooks and just, if you have questions, please, this is a time to get your questions addressed right here. You'll, as they say, from the horse's mouth, you'll get everything that you need to know. And if you have certain concerns, bring those up to Ms. Alsobrooks as well.
One thing I'll also mention, this is a perfect time to explain it. So how the town hall is going to work tonight is when Executive Alsobrooks arrives, we're going to introduce her, and then she'll have about 15 minutes to kind of make the case of, who she is, why she's running. And then we'll open up to a Q&A period. If for those in person and here in the audience, if you have a question, please just raise your hand and Dr. Washington, the moderator, will call on you. If you have a question in the chat, if you can just raise your hand, hit the icon. Our wonderful folks, our communications co-chair Tyler Jones and his assistant tonight, Connor, is helping out with that. They will make sure you get called on and can ask your question, or you can, if you prefer to just have your question written and read out, just put it in the chat and let us know. And then Tyler, I'm going to ask if you can read it out because we can't really see the screen. And cool, it looks like the county executive is about to walk in, so thank you all for bearing with me as I tried to do pre-show entertainment. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. I assume there's nobody that asked any questions. Does anyone have any questions on anything I kind of threw out beforehand? Anything on Zoom, in person? Cool. We're actually gonna. Yeah, sorry.
Come on out.
Hey there. How are you? Good to see you again. I will bring something to take notes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
You mind if I borrow a piece of your paper?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have. I didn't bring my name. Sorry.
Welcome to Somerset. I know you were here.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So we have folks both in person and joining us on Zoom tonight, so we'll be kind of going back and forth.
Okay, excellent.
Um,
This is a whole different thing from last time I was here.
Gonna show you all campus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce. So County Executive Angela Alsobrooks is a lifelong Marylander from Prince George's County and has built a distinguished career dedicated to public service, justice, and community empowerment. Following her education at Duke University and the University of Maryland School of Law, she became the county's first full-time domestic violence prosecutor. Later making history as the youngest and first female state's attorney of Prince George's County. Under her leadership, violent crime was halved, and she initiated a groundbreaking unit to tackle police misconduct. Elected as the first woman and the first Black woman county executive in Maryland, Angela has prioritized economic growth, education, healthcare, and public safety. Her commitment to her community's welfare and progress propels her Senate run, aiming to advocate for Maryland's families with the same passion and dedication she's shown throughout her career. Join me in welcoming Senate candidate, County Executive Angela Alsobrooks.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
floor is
okay.
yours.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I want to thank you all so much for having me back yet again. I had an opportunity to be here last fall or summer. Yeah, the months have gone by so quickly, so it's wonderful to be here. And it's really wonderful to be on the University of Maryland Eastern Shores campus. I had an opportunity earlier today to have discussions about the way that the University of Maryland Eastern Shore is contributing greatly to developing leaders who are going to be able to work in very important sectors here on the Eastern Shore, including closing some of the healthcare access and inequity gaps. The work that can be done also to ensure that veterinary medicine is growing around the country, and some really other important and exciting areas, aviation. So it's really exciting to be here. For those who do not know me, I am a native-born Marylander, very proud of that. I've lived, born and raised in Prince George's County, Maryland, and I am just so honored to have had the last 27 years to have spent my life in service of others in Maryland. But I can tell you that it is the case that the work I've done has been around a concept that I'm going to discuss with you tonight around first chances. And my genuinely held belief that one of the most important things that any public servant can do is to ensure that all of our families have the chance to be successful from the inception. Everything from prenatal care to investments in pre-K education, affordable housing, and a true educational opportunity in our country. These are the things that I have worked for. I represent someone who have been really proud to share her story as a part of this, as I've talked to Marylanders. It's Sarah Alsobrooks, who was my paternal grandmother. She was my father's mother. Sarah brought the family here to Maryland and to the DC area from North Carolina, raised my father, two siblings and another family member in a one-bedroom apartment in Northeast Washington, DC. It was the case that Sarah was a housekeeper. She worked in hotels in and around DC, but she had the great aspiration that she would someday work in the federal government. And for those of you who are too young to remember this, there was a time when you had to take a civil servants exam to get into the federal government, which also involved a typing test. And my father told me that Sarah could not afford a typewriter. So she put a white piece of paper on the refrigerator of the family's kitchen, the refrigerator in the kitchen, and drew a keyboard on that typewriter, taught herself the keystrokes, took that civil servants exam, passed it, and got herself a job in the federal government. I am Sarah's legacy. And what has been important for me is that I have understood over so many years the struggles of everyday hard work families. And I have concluded what I'm sure many of you will conclude, and that is that at the end of the day, our families all want the same things: to live in a place that is safe, to have a place that is affordable, again, to be able to invest in the education of our children, and to have economic opportunity, growing jobs, increasing income, to really be able to afford the cost of living, is what we all want. And those are the things that I have worked for. I was raised in a very working class family, two incredible parents, a mother who retired in 2016, and she had worked for most of her career as a receptionist. Likewise, a father who I say often, because I'm proud of it, he's one of the single most brilliant people I've ever met in my lifetime. Did not have a chance to go to college, but worked as a newspaper distributor for the Washington Post newspaper, and then went on to work as well as a car salesman. And together, my parents focused on and emphasized the power of a good education and how important this would be for me and for my sister. So I went to Duke University, graduated from Duke University, and then came home to the University of Maryland to law school, and was really fortunate to begin my career in 1997 as the first full-time domestic violence prosecutor to work in the state's attorney's office in Prince George's County, and immediately fell in love with that work, the work of defending and protecting women, families, children, and continued my career in the government until 2010, when I looked out and decided that my daughter, I felt, was growing up in a community that felt less safe than the one I had grown up in. And I decided not to complain about it, but to actually jump into action and do something about that. And so I ran for state's attorney in 2010. And during the 2 terms that I served as state's attorney, we saw a 50% decline in violent crime. But I also created really important restorative justice programs. One was a program called I Belong Here for middle school students to incentivize keeping them in the classroom and helping to really incentivize attendance. And I also replicated with her help, Vice President Harris's Back on Track program for first-time nonviolent drug offenders to get them into community college, to make sure they could get workforce development training and truly have an opportunity at a second chance. But what I can tell you about the time that I spent in the courthouse, all 13 years of it, and in the courtroom, was that there were so many who were in those courthouses, and this is not just true for Maryland, I believe it's true all across our country, is that there are people who are seeking second chances, who in my estimation never truly had the first chance. These are people who, again, we failed to invest in their mental health care. They're people who we failed to invest in their in addictions care, people who never really had affordable places to live or true economic opportunity. The opportunity not only to have a job and increasing income, but the opportunity to grow businesses, the opportunity to participate in the economy of our country. And so this idea and this knowledge caused me to decide to go run for county executive so that I could really heal some of the systemic issues that I saw really affected our families and communities, again, all across our state. So in 2018, I was elected as county executive. And from there, I got to work in areas that, again, are important to our families. On education, much like here on the Eastern Shore, we were concerned about the condition of the facilities in our county and concerned also about the kinds of investments we were making. So I looked out and realized that Prince George's had the second oldest school facilities in the state of Maryland. Over 40% of our schools are 60 years old or older. And I can tell you that kids who sit in schools that are falling down all around them receive the important message that their education is not significant, and they also begin to believe that they likewise are not important. So I was able to push, along with our school CEO, a structure of public-private partnership to build schools more quickly and at a cost savings. And over the last 3 years, we used that structure to break ground on 10 new schools in Prince George's County. We opened 6 of them in the fall. And we are this year breaking ground on an additional 8 schools for a grand total of 18 new schools in a 6-year period for the benefit of our children. I can also tell you that healthcare access, which is the issue that I have heard most often here on the shore, the issue that really does affect families is healthcare access. This is an equity issue. I believe that every person deserves access to quality and affordable healthcare. And this is something that I have worked really hard for, including the realization as a prosecutor that we have, in my estimation, severely misdiagnosed what I believe is a public health crisis and called it a crime crisis. And by that, I mean, as a prosecutor, I learned that over 70% of the people that we are arresting every day and taking to the local departments of correction are intoxicated upon arrival. And a third of the people that we arrest every day and take to the departments of correction are on psychotropic medications. So this means that we are recycling in our facilities, local facilities, people who are sick with addiction and sick with mental illness, and we place them in places where they can't even be healed. So I decided to do something about that as well. And in 2022, built the first of its kind freestanding mental health and addictions care facility in the county, so that we can actually heal our loved ones who are sick with addiction and sick with mental illness. I can tell you likewise at work when I realized, again, similar to here on the shore where there is a dearth of available not only primary care physicians, but the kind of specialized care that so many of our families need. You should not have to leave your community to go get quality health care. But in Prince George is a place that has one of the highest rates of breast, lung, colorectal, and prostate cancer. We were one of the only larger counties in the state that did not have a freestanding cancer center. And so I was able to fight to get the funding. And this year we're opening our first ever freestanding cancer center to open its doors in our county to treat our loved ones who are sick with cancer. On economic opportunity, I can tell you as I travel the state that the number one issue I hear from families at their own kitchen table is that they are concerned about the cost of living. This issue has come to me in so many different forms. I was able recently to talk to a number of students and to ask them, tell me what you regard as the top issue for you. And they said to me, we don't want the Democratic Party to continue to tell us that we have an improving economy, Don't tell me that the inflation is going down or tell us that the unemployment rate is low when I don't know whether or not I'm going to be able to afford rent upon graduating from college, and don't know yet how I'm going to be able to afford to live in this economy. So the concept of not only growing jobs, but bringing great paying jobs to our state, to have the resources that are necessary, even here on the shore, broadband, for example, that's so important to many of our small businesses, infrastructure, transportation, very important transportation networks, both public transportation and transportation that not only attracts opportunity to the shore, but allows people to access those opportunities as well. It's going to be critically important. It's what I've done as county executive, which is why I've been really proud to have fought with Congressman Steny Hoyer to bring back the national FBI headquarters to recruited it to locate in Maryland. This will literally change the economy in Prince George's County by attracting cybersecurity and technology jobs to our state. And these, again, are the kinds of opportunities that I will fight for as a senator. Now, I've told you much about my record because I think it's important to know that I have spent my career not only creating important policy, but understanding truly how to convert that policy into results for people. I believe that the people who are closest to the pain are often closest to the solutions. And what I have been able to do as an executive is to create the kinds of results that mean that I understand the practical impact of policies on people. In other words, I don't just talk about affordable housing. In our county, we have focused on growing and preserving about 5,000 affordable units since 2020, growing affordable housing. We've created jobs. And this is the kind of senator that I will be, to build on the areas that I've worked on for families, including healthcare, working to make sure that we are increasing funding for Medicaid, making sure that we are increasing also Medicare funding and capping the out-of-pocket cost of prescription drug medications, which again is going to be very important to helping families afford the cost of living, making sure that we're educating and also building on the Affordable Care Act to make sure that that universal care is affordable for all of us, making sure that insurance costs are affordable. And where education is concerned, I'll continue working to make sure that, you know, I think we have we focus so heavily on local property taxes to fund education that we have set up a system where your zip code determines the quality of your education. And so increasing educational funding through programs like Title I to ensure that all of our kids, even those who are in disadvantaged and impoverished areas, really do have a chance to have a quality education, and making sure we are not also strapping our kids with exorbitant debt who are coming out of college. Bringing down the cost of college is going to be really important. And I promise I'm not saying it because I have a daughter who's a freshman in college. So you may be thinking that's why I'm saying it, but it is, I agree with what the president has done to allow up to $10,000 to forgiven in college debt. But we've really got to do a better job of making sure that our children are free from debt when they graduate from college. And also addressing the needs of our children with disabilities. The Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act is something that we have grossly underfunded. And I want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to reach his or her potential and to have the kinds of funding that's necessary to make that happen. And then, you know, finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about freedom. It's a sad thing to me that we have to keep talking about fighting for our freedoms. And this felt sad to me until I recently read the words of Coretta Scott King, who explained that freedom is fought and won in every generation. That freedom is never really won, that we have to continue to fight for it in every single generation. It explains why now, even in this moment, we're fighting to defend voting rights, something that our foreparents have fought for. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act is something that I will stand up for and work for its passage. I'll be fighting to make sure that we're not rolling back all of the rights, LGBTQ rights, or rights that have been hard fought, and making sure that we are not only appointing judges who protect those rights, but I will be working as well to eliminate the filibuster, which has been a huge impediment to getting so many of these rights passed, everything from voting rights to making sure that a woman's right to choose is also codified so that we are not allowing others to make decisions about that control a woman's body. You know, there recently entered the race, Larry Hogan said he was recruited by Mitch McConnell to run for Senate. And so we know now choice is squarely on the ballot. And even in the couple of weeks since he's been in the race, he first said, well, I understand a woman's right to choose because it's very emotional. It's a very emotional issue for women. This is not an emotional issue. The freedom and the privacy to make your own healthcare choices belongs to all of us. Nobody should be able to make a decision about your body except you. And that is the right that we're fighting for. He followed up the emotional comment by saying that, this was a extremist, that there are people who are on the extremes of the choice conversation, and there is no such extreme. The only thing that's extremist, as far as I'm concerned, is I think it's extreme for anyone to believe that they should make an important and fundamental choice about your health care other than you. And so I'll be fighting to preserve the right of a woman to choose, and will be a co-sponsor for the Women's Health Protection Act. So this is a time where, this race is not about me. This race really is about all of us, making sure that we are not only having people in office who understand and share the cares and concerns of the people they represent at a time where we have a body that is not representative of America. A body where the average net worth of the senator is $16 million. We know the average age is 64. I don't have anything against 64-year-old millionaires, but I think that body ought to represent all of us, that every one of us, of every race, of every gender, of every religion, ought to be able to look in the Senate and find themselves, find your lived experience, to have people in those bodies who represent the various lived experiences of all of us is important to making sure that our policies are complete. And the last thing I'll say in terms of representation is that we have, of course, a 10-person delegation representing us in Washington, and all 10 are men. We do not have a single woman in our federal delegation, and I think it's important to include the lived experiences and the perspectives of women in that delegation. And this is an opportunity to make sure, again, that our policies are complete and that they represent all of us. So I'll stop here and answer your questions, and do want to say thank you so much again for the invitation to be here tonight.
Before I hand it over to Dr. Washington to start moderating the question, I do want to remind everyone just kind of how the Q&A is going to work. So folks joining us in person, if you have a question, you can raise your hand so Dr. Washington can call on you. If you are joining us on Zoom, please raise your hand. When you ask a question, can you say your name and what county you're in? I am going to say this, not that this has ever happened, County Executive Alsobrooks, please be courteous in your questions. If you ask a question that is not appropriate for me, and she's obviously not going to answer it, and we are going to ask you to leave. So make sure we're being courteous, make sure we're staying on the issues. That's something we say at every single town hall. So with that, I will hand it over to Dr. Washington, who will ask the first question that we ask every single candidate that does the town hall.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, so let's get right into the questions. So you've talked about many things, finances, and especially inflation. So this is the bonus question. What do you consider the most important issue facing the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and how do you plan to address it?
Oh my goodness. So there are a number of issues I've come to know during my conversations and discussions here on the Eastern Shore. Healthcare is one that has certainly stuck out in every single discussion I've had. The dearth first of primary care physicians who are on the shore. I mean, that so many of our families are not able to access the care that they need. I know that there's likewise a real shortage of specialists, and this issue is one that has come to me in a number of occasions. I spoke, for example, with a woman who said that her husband had prostate cancer and he had to wait 9 months to see a specialist. 9 months is the difference between a good result, a bad result, and a very, very bad result. I've heard as well that there are instances where it takes up to an hour to get an ambulance. And so this is an issue that is life and death. I've heard of the death of an individual who waited for an ambulance and was and passed away before they could get the care that they needed. And so there has to be a real focus on closing the healthcare access gap. There are many ways that I would focus on this. First of all, working to make sure we have the resources to incentivize practicing here on the shore. I've again had a chance to meet with Vice Provost here at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore today to explain that they can really use more federal funding to make sure, I'm sorry, that we're funding, that we are attracting students here who are in the health sciences, who will be able to not only gain the experience to practice, but will want to live here and to practice on the shore. I know also that the reimbursement rate, sorry, is an issue, and working against that will be important, but transportation is likewise a really important issue here on the shore. The public transportation that would allow people not only to access the care that they need, but again, I hear that there are many instances where individuals want to work in Ocean City where some of the tourism and the other job opportunities exist, but that the transportation network makes it very difficult to even access those opportunities. And so I will be working to make sure that we are drawing really important infrastructure and transportation dollars here to the shore so that we can grow economic opportunity as well as allow people to access those opportunities, whether the opportunity is economic or healthcare. Transportation network is going to be critically important to that. Affordable housing has likewise been raised as an issue of importance. And so I'll be working to make sure that we have housing policies that allow us to preserve and to grow affordable housing. This is something that I have worked on. Again, my experience as an executive has allowed me to work on many positions. So we have, for example, worked along with the government to fund a housing investment trust fund, which allows us to invest in preserving affordability. We've used innovative programs like the right of first refusal to make sure that as properties come up for sale, that we are working with a bunch of developers to put covenants in that help us to cap the cost of rental housing. And so I think we're going to have to really make sure we are intentional about housing policies that allow us to preserve affordability and to grow affordable housing as well. So those are some of the issues and economic opportunity in general. Like I said, just really broadband internet access to allow us to have businesses grow here. Is going to be really, as well as other infrastructure dollars to make sure that we are also supporting small businesses on the shore, and that would be another project. Thank you.
Title as a favorite, you said as well. It's summer for free.
Not,
Do you got the audio on?
yes. You might have to click to ask on mute. I didn't give access to anyone from mute, so.
Kyle, you can proceed with your question.
All right.
Technology, right?
Allows us to be here in a virtual space.
That's right. That's right.
I think there's another question from Martin Harris. How are you supporting living shorelines? I think I'm asking for clarity.
Yeah.
Living shorelines are a way to kind of prevent erosion, like it's like grass, yeah.
Well, that's what.
Okay.
How am I supporting living shorelines?
Correct.
Well, I think the question probably goes toward what would I do to make sure that we're supporting the climate and climate action goals here. And so the way that I would do that is to make sure that we have, there are a number of incentives that have been offered through things like the Inflation Reduction Act, also the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, for things that not only incentivize behavior on the part of businesses and individuals that contribute to our goals. And that's what we would do, is making sure that we incentivize. I think that the question probably goes toward making sure that the landscape is not disrupted and interrupted. And I think that we do that by making sure that I not only support good policies, which I will, good climate policies, both on the federal level, as well as support policies inside of the state and local level that support our climate goals, and make sure that we are pushing for those, as well as pushing to incentivize good conduct on behalf of people who are not only doing business, but people who live here as well.
I would say the hands up here, so yeah.
Carolyn briefly asked, what is something that you failed at and that you wouldn't do again or wish you would have done differently?
Carol said, what's something I failed at?
That you wouldn't do again or wish you would have done differently?
Failed at, I think that the process of leadership is one where you are always constantly in the process of learning, hopefully of hearing from your constituents and doing things a little better. I seek always to continue to not only listen to my constituents, but to make sure that we are working as hard as we can to resolve issues. I'll tell you an area where I think we've made great progress. I think where our climate goals are concerned, we talked about the ways that we could increase opportunities for our residents to get rid of waste. And there was we, as a result of listening both to the community and listening to the environmental community, expanded the first of its kind composting program in the state of Maryland to make sure that we are achieving two things at once. We had residents who wanted to be able to get rid of waste, but we wanted to do so in a way that was environmentally sound. It wasn't always easy, to get out and have lots of conversations, but I think that was a decision that both addressed the needs of our residents while also helping to move us into the future. So it is, always the case that you have to listen. And sometimes the solutions are not easy solutions, but we do what is best to make sure that we are making decisions that allow us to move into the future.
Or from Brandon King. Democracy is at risk throughout the world. Given the risk that Russia, Iran, and North Korea represent, please share your position on military aid to other nations like Ukraine and Israel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important for us to do a number of things. I think it is important, when you mentioned first Russia in supporting our allies, but Ukraine absolutely is an ally. As a matter of fact, today is the second anniversary of the invasion in Ukraine. What we know is we cannot allow Putin to win. He has said very dangerous things, and it would I think harm the United States standing around the world if we allow Russia to topple an ally of ours and to topple a democracy. So we have to, really stand by. Ukraine is an ally of the United States, and Israel is an ally of the United States. I think it is going to be important for us to stand by our values as a country. Those values are around democracy, democracy, freedom, and human rights. And I think it's going to be important for us to make sure that our policies and our actions militarily first are those that go toward diplomacy first solutions. But I think we also have to make sure, we are standing by our values then of democracy, freedom, and human rights. Military spending, let me just say this about it. I think that I understand the question about making sure that as you look at military spending, we do not want to invest in, we cannot be a country that is involved in unending war. I don't think that's not where any of us want to go. When we think about military spending, I'd likewise want to make sure that we don't ever do anything that harms our servicemen and women who are serving here and around the world, who need and deserve to have the very best equipment for their protection, who need to have the benefits that they have worked so hard for to earn. And so part of the military spending, also goes to support our servicemen and women who are deployed all across the world. And we never, ever want to, I think, fail to support our military men and women. But I do understand that we likewise want diplomacy first solutions and want not to have a culture where we are engaged in unending wars.
Thank you. So we're going to take Bishop Dickerson.
Thank you for meeting with us.
Yes.
My name is Aaron Dickerson. I'm going to be from County. I run a home shelter in Salisbury. And my question is, we have been getting innovative from several calls like last month, we turned away funds and my shelter housed men, women, and children and families. So my question is, we know that one of the reasons why we are seeing an increase in homelessness is because the management property and landlords, they want you to make twice of the income that a person makes. So my question to you, what would be the strategy for that you would use in solving homelessness in this town? Or, within the state of Florida?
Well, Bishop, thank you very much for the question. I think that those are the issue of homelessness. I understand the larger question. I think the strategy is a local strategy that I'd have to work with the local officials to solve. I can tell you some of what we've done in our county, and that is to make investments. We are doing a couple of things all at once. We are making investments in housing for homeless populations. Some of those dollars obviously will come both from the state, working to leverage dollars from the state and federal dollars and local dollars to make sure we are able to supply housing for homeless populations. I think using some of the other strategies we mentioned to make sure that we are preserving affordability. When you talked about the rising rents, for example, I mentioned the right of first refusal is something that we have used in our county. It works like this: if you have a unit of 20 or more units that goes up for sale, then the locality is able to acquire that particular unit, work with a bench of developers who have to sign covenants to cap the rents at a certain level so that you don't see the escalating rents that become out of control and are very unfair to the people in the area. So I think you have to use a combination of finding resources for those who are unhoused while also having the kind of resources and policies in place to make sure that you are also accounting for workforce housing and affordable housing for our teachers and firefighters and grocery store workers, making sure that that is a legitimate part of whatever economic development strategy you have. If it does not include housing, it's a failed strategy. So as we look at the ways to grow, we have to embed in that growth affordable and workforce housing so that whatever economic prosperity is realized, it has to be for people of mixed incomes and that everyone can afford to live and enjoy the growth that we'll see.
Bishop Dickerson, did you have another part to that question about the legalistics? Yeah.
Did have another part. There's a bill in the map, it's HL 577. In that bill, it's requiring all homeless shelters to be licensed under the Department of Housing. I am opposed to that particular bill because it's going to affect the faith-based shelters that basically do not receive government funds and so forth. And so it's this long list of things. One of the things that we can't discriminate among individuals. Well, one of the reasons why we do have to screen, because I have to keep the guests safe, but not only keep the guests safe, also I have to keep 33. I got 33 children in my shelter that I have to keep safe. And we are not a mental health facility. We're not a substance abuse facility, and we're not a facility that can address with a more serious problem for homelessness. I think that this bylaw runs for the Constitution, that they can't force us faith-based shelters to apply by the guidelines. Can you kind of clear that up?
Well, Bishop, I have to tell you, you can tell me, you told me the number, that legislation I'm not familiar with. I've not, and I don't want to give you any information in error. If you allow me, if you tell me the name of it again, if you want, I can call you. You said H Bill 577.
Yes.
Okay, let me look at it because I haven't seen it.
Okay.
So
a
I
lot
will-
of people have it, a lot of the legislators, and I've been in contact with legislators. Matter of fact, I just talked to Tom Hutchinson, and we had a wonderful dialogue with former county County Councilman Nicole Atwood, is in contact with her, and she knows a lot of people in the so she hadn't heard any.
Okay, okay, yeah, if you give me an opportunity, I can look it up, but I have not read that. Okay, yeah, but thank you. I'll make sure if you give me your contact information, I'll be on it. Okay.
So I actually have two questions, but can I say them both or,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Say your name and what county.
Yes, Sidney Bradford Jacobs, which is the council. This week, the nation is reading for the next panel. Non-bonding of 10th graders in Oklahoma, New State, and was found dead in a girl's restroom after school fighting for the war. Like you said, hate and bigotry isn't something people are born with, something to talk. Throughout your candidacy, you have presented yourself to be a strong advocate for the LGBTQ+ community. However, there are some who, because of your affiliation with the First Baptist Church in Glenarden, which has in the past encouraged Congress support against Maryland's marriage equality, and defending comments referring to the perverted homosexual lifestyle. And because of the fact that you chose to raise the pride flag for the county administration building without ever doing it before as county executive, right after you announced your run for Senate, in the middle of the night without any ceremony, there are some who do not have full trust in you to be a strong ally to the LGBTQ+ community. They keep using us for votes. So how can you ensure that some of us, that you have the back of the LGBTQ+ community in the state of Maryland, get rid of some of the skepticism some may have? And for the record, do you condemn some of the past public statements made by those in your church?
So thank you so much, Sydney, for the question. So I absolutely support the LGBTQ community and have done so as county executive, and can tell you a few of the things that we have done. We have hired, for example, the first of its ever liaison to the LGBTQ community. I'm the first county executive to have ever done that, to create an advisory council of individuals who come together to give us their best thoughts and ideas around the ways that we can better communicate with and better work with the LGBTQ community. I can tell you so that the flag that you're referring to is the first time it's ever been raised in the county's history. So I'm the first county executive to have ever raised the flag, and we have just taken broad efforts to make sure we're a very inclusive administration. Those efforts include not only efforts around connecting with the LGBTQ community, but we are, for example, created the first of its kind multicultural affairs unit to connect with immigrant communities. We have created the first of its kind office for returning citizens. We've created the first of its kind the unit where we're hiring in our government individuals with developmental disabilities. So in other words, we want to make sure we include every segment of our community, but most especially the LGBTQ community. I can tell you that I believe in freedom to be, not to be free of discrimination, to love who you love, and I have never wavered on that in any shape, form, or fashion. I have a clear record where that is concerned. And when you ask me what church I attend a church where, like everybody else, you don't agree with every single thing that is said in any forum that you go to. But I have made clear what my thoughts and beliefs and positions are, and I stand by it. Thank you.
So my second question. I do have some tough questions. All right. So, Hogan was he had an 81% job approval among Maryland Democrats and Black voters, and 76% job approval from unaffiliated voters during the final Lewis administration. Part of the reason why he was so successful in getting reelected in 2018 was in large part because of Maryland Democrats. In 2018, Hogan overall received an estimate of 25% support from Maryland Democrats, and in major counties in Eastern Shore, it is estimated that Democrats voted for Hogan by even larger margins. For example, it's estimated that Campo Democrats voted 29% from Somerset, 33%, Dorchester, 44%, Hull, 45%, Kent, 46%, to name a few. Of the two major Democratic Senate candidates, polls show that you are losing consistently to Hogan. But one poll from Emerson College showing you losing to him by 7 points. How can you ensure that you will be able to get enough Democrats and regional independents to vote for you, not only statewide, but on Eastern Shore?
Well, I think the fact that that poll shows that I'm only within 7 points of a man who was in office for eight years as a statewide governor, means I'm in great position.
Mhm.
And I can tell you that, after serving 8 years statewide, and I have never served in statewide office, the fact that I stand as strong as I do in those polls, I think is very encouraging. And I think that, that I've been successful in a race against Governor Hogan. And I think Marylanders are savvy. They know the clear difference between a governor and a senator. What we've seen what we will see in the Senate race is we have Mitch McConnell, who has made it very clear that he recruited personally Governor Hogan to be in the race because his desire is to gain the majority in the Senate. Many of us in Maryland, including the majority of Marylanders, are very strong Democratic voters. They recognize how disastrous it would be to further perpetuate the policies of this Republican Party that want to first shut down voting rights, an anti-choice party, a party that is not going to be supportive of LGBTQ rights, of workers' rights, and so many other rights. And so I believe Marylanders are very savvy. They do know the difference between again, the policies of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And I do not believe they're going to extend Mitch McConnell's influence in the Senate through Larry Hogan. I believe that they are not going to vote for that. They will vote Democratic. And in that case, in a case of me and former Governor Larry Hogan, I believe Marylanders will vote to keep Maryland blue. Understanding how important it is that we protect the courts, for example, allowing Mitch McConnell another vote would be another vote for these Supreme Court justices who we see are attacking our rights and freedoms every day, and to allow us to fill the courts who are blocking all kinds of freedoms for Americans. So I have confidence, great confidence in Marylanders, and do not believe that they would vote to hand over the majority in the Senate to the Republican Party.
Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah, you mind if I actually ask the question?
Sure.
Hi, Joe Chapman, Wacomico. So both you and David Schoen have set up a campaign to do both progressives and planning on running in the corporate progressive platform. How can we make sure primaries? You can't hear me? You can't hear me? Okay. So both you and David Schoen have kind of ran an election, both saying you're kind of progressive, you're focusing on passing progressive policies. How can we make sure that the focus of the primary is not progressives, it's not progressives attacking progressives, and more the making sure that we're going after Larry Hogan? You've seen that a clean primary as possible, and you plan on running a clean primary.
Well, I haven't mentioned David Trump tonight. As an example, I don't think it's important. I think what's important is that I have clearly articulated for you, focused on my record. You know, I'm very proud of the record that I have had in office. It's been a record that has been very people-centered. All of my comments tonight here have focused on the people of our state, what I believe our families need and deserve. I think that we need leaders who are more focused on people than politics, and especially the politics of tearing each other down. I have not done that here tonight. It's not who I am. I will defend my record against any person, but I can tell you that I believe that it is time that we elect people who can get the job done. When you talked about progressive policies, I'm here not just talking about progressive policies, I'm talking about progressive results. It is progressive to build mental health and addiction care facilities. It is progressive to work to increase access to healthcare. It is progressive to increase transportation networks and infrastructure. It is progressive to care about the education of our children. It is progressive to make sure we have policies that empower people. That's what I'm here talking about, is what I have not just talked about, is what I actually have results to show for. And I think we need leaders who are that results oriented. That's what executives are. That's what I have a history of that. And I'll work with anyone to get it done. That's the other thing that I can tell you is I've even worked with Governor Hogan to get things done. You know, the $400 million that I brought to my county in investments along the Blue Line corridor, an area that's food desert, similar to what we have here on the shore. I learned that the closest, I guess, grocery store to us here is a Food Lion. There's only one. That's the reason that we see the health disparities growing at the rate. Right. We get help being sick with diabetes. We've had help having high blood pressure. We've had help having heart disease because we don't have access to healthy food. We need people who understand what that means for everyday hardworking people, and people who are committed to working to resolve the country's issues and the state's issues, and that's what I will do. And I hope that everybody else in the race will agree to do the same.
Thank you.
Thank you, County Executive. I do have one question that was written. I want to get that one out from you guys. So this was from Claire from Wycomico County. We have a lot of, I would say, disparity in educators here. There are a lot of people trying to get educators here. And so this is the question. Do you have a plan to encourage people to go into education, or I'm assuming to become teachers, or a plan to keep educators here in schools?
So, you know, I can tell you what I've done. Already, I think that's probably the best way to explain it, is that, you know, we have had a very challenging time, especially COVID. We've had a very challenging time. COVID was really hard for educators. It was really hard. And so some of what we've done, for example, I have fully funded our teachers' contracts in Prince George's County to make sure that they are well paid. We have also made sure that we've worked on all of the other ancillary issues that make it affordable for teachers and others to live in the county. That's why working on affordable and workforce housing is very important, because we want to attract people who can afford to live there. I think it's going to be important to have debt forgiveness to encourage in some of the areas where we want people to work, including educators and firefighters and others, and to make sure that we are working. I will be supportive. That's the reason debt forgiveness for college education is going to be important for things like teaching. And just to also make sure that we're prioritizing our teachers, and we're getting them the support they need, other paraprofessionals, in other words, supporting things like the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. It's going to be important for us, and it's focused on treating teachers as the professionals that they are, which, by the way, I just want to make one other comment about that. It has been of interest to me that part of the challenge in terms of retaining educators has been the pay and compensation, but this is also a gender equity issue. Because we find that, for example, 80% of our primary educators are women. So the people who we are underpaying and undervaluing in the workforce, who are teachers, are primarily women. So this is a gender equity issue as well as a teaching issue. And it is one that I will be supportive of, constantly working to make sure that our educators feel and actually are valued, so that our children can have the best and brightest people standing in front of them to teach them.
Dr. Washington, I'm just getting told that the county executive has time for one more question, and then we have to go to the
Okay.
closing remarks.
Okay, well, we have one more question, if not one from the people. I have.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just take the next one. Considering the ongoing healthcare debates across the country, can you share your stance on Medicare? I think you might have already answered some of this about Medicare.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna move on to another one, because I'm gonna cover a multitude of things. In the spirit of ensuring fair and transparent electoral processes, would you be willing to sign a pledge to run a clean primary focusing on policy over personal attacks and committing to open, honest dialogue with your constituents and opponent?
Thank you. You know, and as I've mentioned, that's what we have done to this point.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that the people sign pledges. I don't know that they're always honored. But what I can tell you is, as I have demonstrated here tonight, I'm here to talk to the people about what my plans are for them and for their families. They deserve to hear from me what my record is, what I've already accomplished in office, and to talk to them about their lives and their futures, and not to spend time talking about other candidates. I think the people are savvy enough to decide which candidate is best for them, and that's what I'll intend to do. One other thing I want to tell you that I will continue to work on, I have been endorsed by End Citizens United. I think it's going to be really important also to talk about reforming our system to get the influence of not only big corporations, but of billionaires and big money out of the elections and campaigns. I think this is going to be really important moving forward, and I've been really proud to have been endorsed by End Citizens United, who find me as a candidate that they want to support, and will work with them to reform our election, the money in elections.
Okay, I did have a question. I know you have a question, one more.
Of course, Dr. Rose, for your question, I do. Yes, I do.
So I am a retired state of
Dr.
Maryland.
Washington.
Yeah, Washington.
I'm sorry.
I'm a retired state of Maryland. I've been retired for 14 years. And at the end of this year, as quiet as has been kept, we will lose our health care. Anyone that retired after 2011 will lose their health care coverage. This came along with, in the contract to retire. It said, you will have health care coverage for the rest of your life.
Now, where did you retire from?
State of Maryland, the person, ECI. Yeah,
Okay.
Department of Budget and Management. And so we've been fighting this going up to Annapolis for probably about 6 years now, back and forth, but we have received officially that they will be taking our health care coverage the end of this year. We will have to look for other things, Jan 2025. And as you all realize, we are getting older. I was much younger when I retired. 14 years later, we need that health care coverage. So what can you do to help us? The union is in this, AFSCME, and several other entities are in it, but it's a big deal.
Okay. Well, Dr. Washington, first, congratulations. You don't look like you've been, like you're old enough to have been retired for 14 years. I don't have enough detail about it. You know what? I'd have to find out. I'm sure, if you say this is a state issue,
It is.
then, you know, it's one that I won't have the details, and I don't want to,
Okay.
again, speak in
Sure.
error, about it, but, and if you say AFSCME is working on it, yeah, this is one I don't have the details about how wide the healthcare is in, but you know, I certainly hope that it can be remedied. I think people who have worked hard deserve to have their benefits preserved, for sure. And, you know, I hope that they're able to remedy that. I'm sure that, you know, again, people have worked hard, and I know that they want the benefits that they've been promised.
Thank you for.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just saying to everybody, thank you so much, to, Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. Thank you so much for having me yet again. It's always good to be here on the shore. I want to thank also all my friends that come out tonight. I see a number of our elected officials who have come out tonight. I want to certainly thank them, for being here. Thank all of you. Thank all of the folks who are online. What I say is this is an important election. We have 80 days until this next election. I think it's going to be important to elect people who have both a record of delivering, as I do, for our families. And also it's important to have people in office who understand and share the cares and concerns of everyday hardworking people, the people who work close to people, who know how to get things done, who can move Maryland forward, and who will stand up as a strong voice for democracy and freedom, not just for Marylanders, but for all Americans. That's who I am. With the hope to have your support and endorsement. I know that you all are going to have an endorsement process. I would very much appreciate having your endorsement, and we'll continue to fight for each of you. So thank you so much for having me.
We'll get something to leave for now. I just want to close on one last thing. Just a reminder, our endorsement vote for Senate and every other race is this coming Thursday night at 6:30, either the UU Church and the UU Fellowship in Salisbury or virtually. So keep a lookout on your emails. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much, Dr.